4.5-inch lift, and it looks amazing. I think everybody's very happy with how it turned out, especially me. Welcome back to HRG TV, and today we have a 2024 Honda Ridgeline, but this is no ordinary Ridgeline. This is the Trailsport model, which I have to say right off the bat is not lifted. Now there's some confusion about whether Trailsports are lifted or not. They are not lifted. They just have different shocks and springs, same height, just a little bit softer suspension for more off-road capability. The Trailsport actually has a couple of things that differentiate it from a regular Ridgeline, one of which is it has this Trailsport badge right here. The other thing that they did was they added off-road tires. So if you have a question about whether the lift kit we're about to install will fit the Trailsport, the answer is yes, because it does not have a lift from the factory. Today, we're gonna be doing something special. We're gonna be doing our Beast kit. That is the 4.5-inch lift for the Honda Ridgeline. Let's get right to it. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is take out these two bolts here. That is the engine dampener. And as you can see, just took those two bolts out and the engine didn't move. That's because this does not support the weight. It just dampens vibrations. All right, we're gonna start by taking off this plastic deflector. What do you call it? Splash shield? I don't know. We're taking that off, that's all I know. A couple of clips and a couple of bolts. And then, yeah. This guy's had this thing in the mud, clearly. At this point, we're just going to take all the rest of these screws out. Fix it in post. Yep. Draw one on them, like with a crayon or something. And Honda's infinite wisdom, they added 2 more screws that you need a Phillips head for. Yeah, okay, so I made an error just a second ago. I used a number 2 screwdriver on that screw. This is actually a number 3. It's the same size screw that's in the rotor right here. And if you use a number 2 on that, it'll just round out the hole. So a number 3, it's a little bit bigger size bit. And then what I do is put that in an impact like this and then just press down really hard, and the impact will typically knock it loose so you don't strip it out. If you stripped it out, you'd have to drill it out. We don't want to do that because that creates extra work. Probably just throw this away. But this here, I'm actually going to show you how to reattach it. This will actually go up on the top of the subframe when we're done. It's gravel coming out. This guy definitely takes this thing off-road. All right, what I want you to do next is 17 millimeter. We're going to take off these bolts here. Now, I don't know the terminology of what to call this. I want to say it's just a strengthener bracket for the subframe. There's probably a technical term for this. If you know the term for this, actually put it in the comments, because I always just call it a stiffener bracket for the subframe, but it might be called something else. But anyways, we're going to take all the bolts out of these things. And what's interesting is there's other models that have this same, like this sort of same setup, and they don't have these. Say if we're looking at an Acura MDX, the MDX has these same brackets, but the Pilot counterpart, which is the identical twin, just got a Honda badge on it, doesn't have these. So in my mind at least, they must be there for some kind of extra chassis rigidity that you get on the MDX that you don't on the Pilot. So what you do is you take out the original bolts and we're going to replace them with these. And what this does is it prevents the subframe from falling and crushing you. We don't want to be crushed today. It's quick and easy. A little bit of insurance and make sure this thing doesn't fall. So when we lower this subframe, this wire needs to have a little more slack in it. So we're going to just break that off. Actually, just pop it loose. But this is going to end up making more of a straight shot between this connector and this connector. So we can't leave it connected there. So we'll just move it up and we can secure that somehow or not. But yeah, let's go ahead and get the screw jack and support that subframe. Now, if you don't have a lift and a screw jack like this, you can do this on the ground. You just want to use jack stands and a floor jack. So you will have to have, at the bare minimum, jack stands and a hydraulic floor jack to do this job. Works just as good. Another thing I haven't mentioned in these videos is you want to keep track of the hardware. This kit does not require anything permanent to be done to the car, unlike bigger lift kits on, let's say, a Ford or a Chevy, where you actually have to cut the frame, parts of the frame away to do a big lift. On this, you can completely reverse this whole thing, but not without the factory bolts. And these are extremely expensive to buy new from Honda. So what you want to do is bag these up and label them so that you could, if you ever wanted to take the lift kit back off, you could do that. We're going to go ahead and put this one in. Okay, so now it can't drop more than that. And when we go ahead to lower it, it'll hold it in place for us. So now we can control the lowering of this with the screw jack. And then once this is down, we'll move on to the back. All right, so now as you can see, the subframe is supported by these two bolts now. And we've got this gap here. It's gonna end up being a 2-inch space downward when we're finished. So we're gonna move on to the back of the front subframe. Okay, take this one out. We're gonna go ahead and put a bolt in there to support it. Okay. Okay. All right, now we're supported with the bolts. We're gonna go ahead and drop this whole thing down. And we're gonna start putting in our spacers. From here, we don't really need this other than just peace of mind, because we'll always have at least 3 bolts holding the subframe up, and that's more than enough. One at a time, we're gonna take these out, and then we're gonna put our spacers in there. I'm gonna lower this down just a tad. Okay, there we go. Now we're gonna start putting it back together. And don't forget to put the bracket in there. Line it up with the holes right there. And then we can go ahead and tighten this. And now, go ahead and put our spacers here as well before we tighten everything up. We're gonna leave everything just a little bit loose for now. Some billet aluminum spacers go in here. We're gonna just do them one at a time so that it's always supported by at least 3 bolts. We don't want this to fall. And even though it looks maybe a little bit, I want to say intimidating to do this, this isn't really that bad. Of these. All right, we're gonna go ahead and do the front now. And again, we're supported by 3 pretty sizable bolts, so it's not going anywhere. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. Okay. Put this one in first. So a little tricky on this one because the AC compressor's in the way, so you just have to go from the back like that, and it will go right in there. Don't forget your bracket. honestly, that didn't take that long. I'd say we'd probably been at this for 15 or 20 minutes and the subframe is already done. You know, if you're a shop watching this, you can obviously see it's not a big deal. I don't want your techs to be intimidated by doing this job. The one thing that it'd be worth pointing out, you might have questions about, is that no, there is no issues with wiring or hoses having enough slack to move down 2 inches. The only thing that might be a question at this point is the airbox. Now, I've come up with a way to adapt the airbox to fit with the subframe drop, and I'll show you that in just a second. But basically, you can go ahead and do all this without concerning yourself with, oh my gosh, am I gonna break something or whatever doing it this way? No, I personally have done this job at least maybe 8 or 10 times on just a Ridgeline, and the Pilot and the Passport are the exact same subframe with the exact same process, and I've done the exact same job. So all total, I've probably done this maybe 20 times now. So it's like, you know, once you've done one and you know that there's no issues, you can just be confident in knowing that it's an easy job.
Blur the whole screen.
Remember when, was it Whistling Diesel shot something and the ricochet came back and like bloodied his face and they like took the video down or something? It was. All right, so this piece right here, we can't use because it interferes with the way this thing fits back together. So not really necessary to start with. So we're gonna leave that off. Basically that just supports this harness right here. And I would say if you're super concerned that you could probably just zip tie this to here, but it kind of just floats in the air anyway. So I don't think it's honestly a valid concern. But you can see right here, we basically got to put our spacers in between the bracket and the engine dampener. It's a little bit tricky to get down in there, but there you go. I'm just going to drop these bolts on through like that. Oh man, I missed it. Okay. Thought I had it lined up. Nope. Come on, just go in there. Too good for your home? It's kind of hard to see what I just did, but you basically put the spacer between this bracket and that bracket and then drop the bolt in like that. Okay, we'll tighten it on up. I'll show you the issue with the airbox. Now this has all been lowered. As you can see, this is pulled away just a little bit. And the fix is to basically take this bolt out right here. And what that does is allows the airbox to tilt and therefore fit a little bit better with that hose. So we've taken all the tension off it just by undoing that bolt right there. Just taking that bolt out basically gives you that little bit of range of motion that it's needed in order to fit properly. Now you don't have to do this with the smaller lift kits because we're not dropping the subframe as much. All right, let's move on to the back. So the back subframe is just about the same as the front. 4 main bolts, and then you've got 2 stiffener brackets, or whatever these are called. Same principle as the front, dropping this whole assembly down. And we will be, if you're asking questions right now, we will be, yes, dropping the exhaust down a little bit to compensate because everything else is lowered. So we will be putting different exhaust hangers on later on. But for now, let's go ahead and get this dropped. Same thing as the front with not taking them all out at the same time. We're just gonna take these here. Okay. Ooh, that was a squeaker. Those of you that have the Milwaukee Impact, does yours hesitate sometimes when you pull the trigger? Put a comment down below if yours does that. I don't know if mine is just old or what it is, but sometimes I pull the trigger and it just like hesitates for a second. Kind of weird. Okay. I'm gonna throw a couple of bolts in temporarily. Excuse me, that's not the right bolt. We're gonna take this back out. That's better. Last one, right here. There it is. No commentary needed. Don't need your commentary. I need a rolling tool cart. Put that on my Christmas list. Okay, now we can go ahead and start putting the spacers in. The back one gets a very large 3.5 inch wide by 2. Now that we've got all the bolts in, pretty good. Okay. Yep, that did it. Yeah. What the fuck is happening? Why is that not? Oh. I thought it was gonna fall on me.
Yeah.
It landed right there. Okay, I gotta loosen that big bolt up again. I think I just get a little carried away, tighten things up when they shouldn't be. Yeah, that's the key. Okay, that all looks good. I know. Look at it, all the way to the end of the shop.
Oh my God.
Get my steps in.
Put your head.
God damn it. Oh, it's twice now.
Jeez.
Should be wearing my cowboy hat. It gets in the way, but at least it helps me to, it prevents me from hitting my head all the time. Start wearing a hard hat. Front and rear subframes are dropped. Let's do this, we'll call this a gas tank bar. Basically that's got to come down as well, because as you can see, when you drop the drive shaft down, this is going to hit here. So we're going to drop this bar down, we're going to drop this, and then we're going to drop this as well, and also this. This is just a safety loop in case you shear your drive shaft. It doesn't pogo stick the car into the air. It's safety. Take this off. There's one there, one right there, and then another one on the end right here. Oh, all right. Why? What is going on with this thing? I think this thing's probably gotten hit and it's maybe bent a little bit. Risk it for the biscuit here. Yeah, that bar is definitely bent, but we made it work. So what we'll do is just put the world's dullest drill bit over here. There you go. There you go. Right about there. Look at that. Okay. Done. Moving on. Drive shaft safety loop. There is normally an aluminum, I guess, heat shield right here. This truck is missing that heat shield. I imagine this guy does some off-roading and it probably just got torn off. Not a big deal. If you like this car doesn't even have it. I don't think there's any consequence to not having it. So if you want to just take it off and use it for a Frisbee. Okay, we got to cut that right there. Okay, we're just going to cut a little notch so we can access that bolt. No, that's steel. I guess someone's got it though. Okay, there's a little notch right there. Gonna put a little notch in that one as well to get to that bolt. Haven't done the neatest of jobs there, but it'll be all right. Ow! Fucking hell, man. Ah, man, I just grew out that last time I smashed my finger. Now I'm gonna have to do it all over again. If you guys watch my old videos, there was a black fingernail because I smashed it and it just finally grew out. Stupid. Plenty of room here, plenty of room here. Everything is good to go. All right, now the last thing we have to address is the exhaust. So this kit fits all the way back to 2017. This is a 2024. I think that not all of them have dual tailpipes. I think some of the Ridgelines, depending on what trim level, probably just have one tailpipe. You might not need all of these. They're gonna come with the kit regardless. You just might not need them all. On this one, we are gonna use them all because it has the dual pipes. So we're gonna start off taking this guy right here. I need a better pry bar, it's not gonna work. You know what, let's spray it with WD-40. Let's spray them all with WD-40. So back here you've got, that's gonna come out. I can't see it. Oh, there it is. Almost got it. Almost got it. Shoo. Okay. Now, take that off. I'm gonna replace it with this. There we go. There's that one, and we're gonna go back here. Now these ones are a little different because you basically have to attach this new spacer to the old one so that it will be oriented correctly, because these are like a 90-degree turn on the actual rubber. It won't work with our extensions unless you do that. There it goes, okay. Jeez. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. This is gonna go through that, just like that. And this is gonna actually bolt. You can see where this is going. Basically, you're gonna attach these two together and then you're gonna hang the muffler where it needs to go. I think usually I put it like right there, and we'll tighten that up. Ah, it's on reverse, you idiot. Not working. Something about this is not working. Why is this not? Why is everything so difficult? I don't understand. Let's try impact. There we go. Now, we will adjust the height once we get it on the ground and see. I think one side is maybe heavier than the other or something, and they don't always sit straight unless you adjust the hangers. So we'll do that later on. Okay. Okay, there you go. That is good. I wonder if I should switch it over though. I kind of don't like that. I'm gonna switch it over. There you go. Feel a little better about that. Okay. All right, that part's done. Get out of the shot. This guy is always in the shot. Ah, yay.
Friday cleanup.
Uh-huh.
I just pulled a probably 5-foot by 5-foot section of the floor up on accident.
On accident?
That I tripped on. And it
Holy
started falling,
cow.
So I was just trying to like rip it straight, and it just pulled like the whole area by the press brake.
Oh my God, it was coming up.
It was bad. It might be the winner for the biggest piece.
Really? Let's go take a look. Oh man. Oh my God, dude. Oh Lord. Oh, that's the biggest piece ever, dude. Holy shit. Wow.
Holy shit, Caleb, what the hell, man?
I told you.
Anybody order an epoxy floor? Look at the floor underneath.
It's so shiny. It's slick.
They didn't-
I mean, it's like It feels slick.
Yeah, so as you can see, we've got floor cancer.
It's a hazard a little bit.
Well, what it is we walked on it too soon.
Yeah, it needs to cure a little bit longer if you can just be patient, okay?
That's our whole problem. We're just not patient. A couple more years and it'll be dry. This is the floor we had installed when we moved in. And we were told that we've been abusive to it, and that's why it has come up.
It came up immediately.
But it was already coming up the day they got it done.
I mean, look where it's splitting on
Oh, yeah.
on the crack here.
And the guy said that it would take a month to cure, so we waited a month to move in, or almost a month.
Yeah.
And it still did it. So we're blaming the floor company for that, and the floor company is blaming us for that. Comment down below what you think happened with that floor covering. It was supposed to be an epoxy floor. They said they prepped it, but in my opinion, they didn't prep it properly. It's peeling up in here too, but not as bad. So anybody that's a floor expert, comment what you think that is. Okay, so the next thing is these foam seals. Now you got a 2-inch gap right here. Now the nice thing about the 2nd gen Ridgeline is that you don't have to cut anything. The steering shaft, as it comes down, has 2 universal joints. So you got one off of the steering shaft that attaches to the wheel, and the other one that goes down to the steering rack. And when you lower the subframe, it just changes the angle of those 2 universal joints. And if you know anything about universal joints, they can be at multiple different angles and it still works just fine. And in this case, it does work just fine. That's what we're gonna do now, is seal up the gap between the steering rack and the body. And I'm actually gonna have to lower this down because I'm a short person. So these are actually cut with the hole offset. And what you'll do is line it up so that it fits where it lines up like that. And we're just gonna rotate these into position. It should seal it up nice. This is also for noise deadening. So you've got, you know, a little bit of road noise comes in if you don't have these seals in place. But when you put them all in, you want to make sure you've got a little bit of play so that nothing's touching. But there you have it. Super easy to do. Now, the last thing, and well, this will be at the end of the video, you do have to trim the plastic dust cover that goes over the steering column to allow it to move, because it is in a little bit different position. But even that's not that big of a deal. Now, we're gonna move on to doing the actual lift kit part. All right, we're gonna go ahead and take the front suspension apart, and we can start with ABS wiring. That's this here. So basically squeeze that and pull it out. All right, I'm gonna take the ABS wire off. The brake line right there. Save this bolt, you will need it. We gotta take this brake caliper off. It's easier if you just turn that. Okay. Is it dead?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna take off the brake rotor next. I say this in every video, but there is a special tool for that. It's like a little impacting driver thing. Set that down. So you don't want to leave the caliper dangling by the hose. You can use either a ratchet strap, or in this case, I just used a bungee cord to kind of support the weight so that it's not hanging from that hose. No problem for the Milwaukee. That's fine. Swibber end link's got to come out. This little guy just unclips. And just pull that out. We're gonna have to hit this with a hammer to get it off. It's the best way to do it. I usually thread a nut back on, make sure we don't damage the threads. That was easy. Similar procedure for the bottom ball joint. It does require 2 people, so I'm gonna get a helper. All right, so while he pulls down on this, I'm gonna go ahead and hit it and knock it loose. There it goes. Okay, sometimes it takes 20 hits, but it'll always come off. Thank you. Now that all this is off and loose, we just have to take the bolts out from the top and drop this whole thing down. Ouch. Oh man. Cars are painful, dude. Now, I know most of you watching this already know about this feature, but Honda, I think, is the only company that does this. They have this extra little spot for the prop rod, so you have a service position on the hood. It's a pretty cool idea. This is gonna be a little easier with 2 people, as this strut assembly probably weighs at least 50 pounds. At the current second, I do not have a helper, so I'm gonna try to catch this by myself. But basically, you got this one last nut, and you're just gonna try to support the weight like that. And then, oh man, I got a bum shoulder too, so it's tough to lift anything. Okay, there we go. No problem. I'm gonna attach the spacer. I say this in every video. You guys that have watched me for a while know, I gotta say it in every video. Left side is driver's side on US models. So for those of you in the comments that are gonna say we should have done driver passenger, well, some of the vehicles we sell to are in Japan or overseas, and it's right-hand drive, so you can't do driver passenger. So we do left hand, right hand. And the nice thing about the Ridgeline is that you can't put these on wrong. See, it only goes on one way. And you're gonna use the factory nuts to put that on, just like this. Now, most of you know, but some of you don't, that this is meant to turn. When you steer the wheels back and forth, this actually turns. I know some people didn't know that, so I figured I'd mention it. But what that means is it's difficult to get torque on these. So what you do is you leverage a wrench between these 2 studs, and then you'll see when it starts to twist like that, now you can leverage against that right there and get a good bit of torque on those. Now that that's done, we just can put it back in. That's gonna be tough. There ain't no fucking way. Okay. Thank you. Ow. All right, that's all I needed. Maybe just get one of them started. The other ones, you can just pull it up. And go ahead and pop these back in. Why is that not going on? Oh. Okay, easy part's done. All right, now this is by far the most complex and difficult part of this entire installation. So you're gonna need a helper, and you're gonna need a pry bar. I call this the Ridgeline bar, because this is basically a tool that you have to do this job. I've used a regular pry bar and it just isn't enough leverage, or you just get tired of pushing on it. But with this extra long bar, you don't have to push as hard to get the same result, so it's a little easier. I gotta do one more thing before we do that, and that is this other end of the sway bar link has to come off. Okay. Now, if you're working on a Ridgeline that is, let's say, older or has rust, you'll have to put, I think it's a 6mm Allen key into that hole and then just crank this nut until it comes off. Now, the tricky part here is that we've got to get this all put back together. And I'll be honest with you, even without a lift, this is a pain in the ass, even on a stock Ridgeline, just taking it apart and put it back together. Just the design of it makes it very difficult. First thing you have to do is get that lower arm out of the way, get everything sort of in position again. You're gonna thread the axle back in. So as you can see, everything just wants to kind of coexist in the same space. It's just a pain in the butt to get everything to go in. The first thing though is to get that axle to go back into its home. What's wrong, Axle? You too good for your home? This is a 2-person job. There it goes. Yeah, what you don't want to do is put your finger in there like I just did. There it goes. And we made that look easy, but it really isn't that difficult if you got a helper. So pull down, get that lower ball joint lined up, and then just work it in a position. No problem. I will need your help on the other side before you go.
You ready?
No. All right, yeah, and just basically put it all back together in reverse order. I'm gonna put the tie rod end back on, and then sway bar end link. This is a shorter end link. And if you have a question as to why it is shorter, I actually made a video about that. Now, axle nut. Throw that back on. ABS wire and wheel sensor. This just goes right back on like it was. Plenty of slack in the ABS wire. You don't have to worry about that. We are going to be changing the way the brake line mounts. I'll show you that in just a minute. Make sure you line up the hole. So it's going to go there. So just like this. Brake caliper. Okay. Thank goodness this ratcheting wrench isn't messed up. Okay. Another good practice is to make sure that the dust shield is not touching the brake rotor. Seems like we're okay. Okay, now the last thing is this brake line bracket right here. All right, so we're gonna take off these two bolts right here, and we're gonna loosen this one. So I've already done it, actually did it off camera, but that allows this to drop. And then you basically, I've got the 3 bolts up there, and then this whole strut just comes right out. All right, if you look at this strut from the top down, you can see that it isn't quite symmetrical. It's got a little bit of an oblong shape to it. So the spacers that we've made have that built into them. And what you'll notice is that if you put this in and it doesn't seem to line up with the holes, all you gotta do is just flip it over. So there is no left and right, there's just a top and a bottom. So if you put this up there and it seems like it just doesn't want to line up with the holes, that's all it is basically you've got it on there upside down. Okay, see how you've got the front one lined up, but the back one is way off? So all you gotta do is just flip it over, and now you can see the holes line up. All right, now that you got the spacer mounted, basically just have to line the lower control arm back up, which isn't too difficult, really. But see how you can move it back and forth? That's why you need a floor jack for this. You can't just use a regular pole jack. There it is. Easy. Yeah, and as you can see, we got weight on the suspension, so we're gonna go ahead and tighten all 3 of these bolts. We've got to relocate this brake line. So if we lower the jack right now, this would kind of be under some tension. We don't want that. So we're gonna go ahead and disconnect it from where it mounts right now. Okay. All right, we've got these really cool brake line brackets that are gonna go in place. Mount this like so. Okay. All right, guys, that pretty much wraps it up for the installation on this beast kit on a 2024 Honda Ridgeline. And I wanted to just point out a few things about this kit. Now, as you can see, we've still got the original tires on here. These are obviously the 245/60 18s. I'm gonna throw a couple of sizes on the screen right now that you can do that will work with this kit. And then I'm gonna throw a bigger size on that, yes, you can do. It's gonna require a little bit of cutting, but it kind of balances out the look of this big lift. You just have to trim some stuff back here. So just be aware of that if you decide to go with the bigger sizes. And obviously with an 18-inch wheel, you got a lot of choices in tire sizes. You can also probably go to a 17-inch wheel if you wanted. So I'm gonna throw a few sizes up. 4.5-inch lift, and it looks amazing. I think everybody's very happy with how it turned out, especially me. Appreciate you guys watching to the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, you ready? The neighbor's in their Prius, I swear. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, man. Where the fuck are the bolts?